Hello, management tubers, and welcome back to Let's Play Lobotomy Corporation with me, BlueAnkylo, and the live chat, of course. So, for today, day 42, getting very close to the end, we've got kind of a simple plan. Complete a quest, which should happen basically automatically. You need one employee with 4 or more Eagle Gifts, and I did double check that I have 4 or more Eagle Gifts. There's probably other people as well, but one way or the other, that's fine. We do have the bonus now to get Eagle Gifts twice as often, so it kind of synchronizes a little bit, but it'll be easier to farm up gifts if we want. And we're going to do that. We're going to try to fight the bird one more time to get one more of his weapons, because we currently have 2, and we can get a 3rd slot. And we're also going to try to work on a new Aleph abnormality and maybe get the weapons and armor out of them if we're really lucky. And that's kind of the goal for now. We're going to save the bird event, some of you know about, for the next day is kind of my plan. Because I want more gear and more employees. So hopefully we'll get lots of lobotomy points, and some of our newbies will get a little bit of chance to train up. Actually gain some stats up here. And yeah, I mean, that's the plan. We will have some suppressions coming up before too much longer, but I don't know how that works exactly. Okay, so let's see what we got. The new abnormality. It's just a little heart. We got a lot of heart-themed abnormalities. This one's got a lovely blue color. And just a pile of legs and arms, you know. I think, are those all legs? They might all be legs. Yeah, they're probably all legs. Not suspicious at all. Let's send someone in. So what would you say here? It doesn't really look like an animal by any means. The message was something like, one day we'll all become stars, or we'll meet again as stars, or something. So I would lean towards... Insight seems to be a typically safe bet, except for this one. Which was the one time Insight failed me. I almost never want to start with Repression. I mean, it's got a heart. That might be kind of a signal to go with Attachment, actually. Yeah, you know, if anything, it kind of sounds like maybe Attachment. I don't really know for sure, but... Ooh, look! Daubry has 130 Temperance. These guys are already, like, maxed out on Temperance. That's crazy. It's great, but it's crazy. Alright, so let's get this guy researched. You can see we've actually got 2 employees with lots of gifts. That's nice. Anyway, often employees are eager to throw themselves into it. Please do not do that. This is not going particularly amazing. It's doing white damage. Our abnormality was born in an abyss of despair and floats towards a new beginning. Alright, so maybe non-attachment. You know, that's fine. We're learning. It's for science. That was pretty terrible there, Jean-Mathieu. Alright, well, a neutral is potentially bad. I don't know clip-off stuff yet, but 14 points, eh? Let's try to get some tips before we immediately lose everybody. So, employees with Temperance 3 or lower are immediately sucked in. Okay. And an employee with Prudence of 4 or below finish the work. Okay, so the good news is everybody down here has high stats. Now, because they're talking Prudence, this might be the tip that we should be going with Insight. Also, I mean, at this point, I don't really know. I don't have any other tips. Other than, I wouldn't trust Instinct, and Attachment didn't work too well. And Repression is just never the right choice. This is looking a bit better. Yeah, much better results. Okay, so Insight looks good. That'll get us through the early phase, I hope. Still only a neutral, but maybe neutrals are good. I don't know for sure what we're sort of targeting here for this thing. It's got... Okay, we actually got the success rate up from that. So we got all the management tips. That's good. When the work time was 60 seconds or more, the counter was decreased. The employee who was working on it was sucked in. So that hasn't happened yet. So work time is kind of one of those things that you rarely pay attention to. But the only thing we've got that affects that is your temperance level, which we've got pretty high. The two people going in, I did mention, have really good attachments, so they should have pretty good work speeds. And there's a couple debuffs, like the fiery bird thing. So maybe we need to be careful who we send to fight the fiery bird, because that does, like, half your temperance work speed skill, and that might make it take more than 60 seconds. Employees with low temperance or low prudence died as soon as they encounter it on escape. While the abnormality remains escaped, all the sounds will change to a quiet, low-pitched tone, and sight will become hindered. It does not sound great. While the abnormality remains escaped, all panicking employees will be sucked into it and die. So you might want to kill it quick, I guess. Seems fair, right? Let's give it 1 or 2 more tries. I don't want to push our luck too much, but it doesn't say that the clip-off counter goes down on yellows or normals. So as long as we're not getting bads or something, or like actually panicking, we should be able to work this a fair bit. Also, we know the name is Blue Star, if you caught that just quick there. So I have seen this thing before, and this is one of the reasons I picked it, is this would have been a decent early game Aleph, because it's not, well, not super early. You do need some stats, but compared to some of the abnormalities, he's not too hard to work. Yeah, I mean, if he escapes, it might be bad. But he doesn't look like compared to the mountain, it's going to be a lot harder to have this thing break out on its own. The mountain just breaks out automatically all the friggin' time. And Melting Love, you can't even work on regularly. So, I feel like this is one of the less troublesome Aleph tier abnormalities. It's got its own little quirks, but overall it's probably not the worst one. Of course, we'll see if its weapons and armor are worth it. It might have the weakest armor and weapons if it's not a very valuable one. Alright, escape info. Almost immune to white, a little bit weak to blue, pretty strong against red, and average against black, let's say. You know what? As long as we're getting these kind of good scores, I'm just going to keep going here. Because the goal is to get, like, if possible, I would like to be able to afford all of the gear out of it right now, rather than waiting for another day. But that will push us pretty far into overload territory. But I have confidence. One thing I could do is actually switch out some employees with good stats. Because if we're really doing a lot of insight work here, like, I could bring Cole down there and max out his Prudence, because nobody needs to work Prudence 20 times on an Aleph to get it maxed. There's no way it would take that long. Alright, so attachment was very bad. It looks like repression might be okay. Maybe. Yeah, the counter only seems to go down if you work too long. So you can see, like, the work time. Once you've looked at these buttons, we are pretty safely under 60-second work time. And the only other way for it to drop was a bad? No, it wasn't even a bad. I don't even know if a bad result, which is very difficult to get, will drop it. It looks like it's basically a bad stat or a long job. And as long as you've got enough stats, which we do, that should never trigger. I mean, unless I'm missing something. Let's try one more. I think we're pushing our luck a little at minus 30, but... we did just get plus 4% a little while ago. I mean, I think we're pretty much going to get past bad. Yeah, so it's still very difficult to get a bad result. Very difficult. It's probably more likely to get panicked by it than to get a bad. Okay, so on the plus side, we have also the speed rate will affect... because remember, this is one of the few things where speed rate's going to matter. So that should bring it down even more. We went from... well, it didn't seem to go from 45 any lower, but point is, work time is about as quick as we can get. I think minus 30% is actually the max, because we just had 30 and it didn't even go up, so... The fact that we can work at it on max overload is ridiculous. So what do we have? We've got Sound of a Star, very good armor. It's not as good against Pale as Justicia, but 1 is pretty standard for Aleph armor, and it's really good against the other 3. It doesn't have any preference, but it's just really good against everything. And it's another white element, fast, long-range weapon. Not that we need specifically white, but hey, it's Aleph, might as well take it. I wouldn't be surprised if something has a special effect, so it's possibly even better. But let's go do some other work for the moment, and then we'll get to that some more once. Like, we'll get more points when the counter resets anyway. Also, I need to work on the big bird a little bit. We got to get one more job here for sure. Oh yeah, he's real good for attachment. That's why we have all our stats maxed. But you can do instinct anyway, so we'll get that out of the way. I think that's the only weapons I need right now. Everything else is pretty much good to go. So the question, I suppose, next is, what are we doing with our day? Like, what are we working on? We do want the bird to get out at some point. I'm just going to do this for temperance growth because I'm pretty much maxed on fortitude. Let's see. What could we do? I guess we should focus on the newbies as far as stats are concerned. Getting people past the bad justice movement speed part. That will probably be beneficial in the long run. Leg fetish heart is pretty hard, yeah. Like I was saying, I kind of have a feeling this is one of the nicer Alephs. Possibly the nicest one of the batch. Because it doesn't have a whole lot of tricks to it. Now, if you get unlucky and one of the clowns lets it out before you can get there, or if it's... You could combo it with something like... there are some abnormalities that can lower other counters in the same department. That might be a problem, for instance. But overall, it doesn't seem too bad. Hold on. Just double check here. Yeah. I gotta make sure I never burn anybody again, because that was terrible. Alright, so we'll get a meltdown, but these meltdowns aren't gonna be a very big deal right now. Honestly, we can almost ignore them. Like it's not that we won't solve them, it's just that we can send people to work and not really worry about the counter as long as it's not an ordeal, because, you know, one thing down here is not going to be... It's not going to stop us. Punishing birds out. It's fine. Radult is a little bit cranky, but... I guess... I actually don't know. I never know for sure what the best option with these guys are, but I like training my temperance a little bit more than I like training my... my insight. So we'll get those finished. This has Fiery Bird potentially set up for his escape. Meanwhile, we're going to focus on this thing, which is going to be basically a repression trainer. Well, we don't even really need much more. To be honest, these two will be pretty much maxed out long before we can afford the weapons, so I'll probably move someone down to let them get some stats once we get a couple more cycles. There's a bird somewhere doing its annoying bird thing. Probably get these people up to 5 fortitude. So my goals are to get most of the upper level employees, you know, plus 1 or 2, getting close to level 5 in all their stats. It might not happen perfectly on this one day, but the closer the better. And then we can start talking about some of the end game actually difficult fights. Because we've got 1 or 2 easy days before things get... This happens more often than I'd like to admit. Alright. Gotta remember the corner of the camera. Alright, I'm pretty sure we'll be maxed... Because we can't go past 108 generally for Justice right now. But we can get to 128 on everything else, so... That'll probably be all for those guys. Let's say... We'll swap these two down for now. And that'll be fine. Meanwhile, I'm sure Schadenfreude is being suppressed in short order. There's not really anything else that I need to specifically work on. I mean, there's always people who could use more stats, but... Like, there's, you know, all the A-team could use some more stats, too, on the newly uncapped, attributes. Yeah, we'll stick with attachments, a bit safer. Okay, keeping things busy, just trying to move. We're going to have a Red Dawn coming up. That's not too much trouble. Wait, who was... John Matthew, you're going to move up. And we're going to let the Discipline team get some practice. Not that they need all that much, but it's all good. So we're going to average, oh, I don't know, probably around 25 points per work here. In total, we're going to need, assuming no janitors die, 410. Let's just round that to 280. So we're going to need nearly 600 points total to get all the gear. It's possible we could get that all done on one day, but it's going to take some grinding, basically. Are we worried about this? Nah. Let's preemptively move people to the odd levels. And I just don't think... As long as I pause and kill these guys, there's just nothing to really worry about. So we're going to let Cole keep working on the blue star for the most part. The goal is to get those weapons. Alright, we got one over here. Nothing in discipline. So you guys can handle one of the commands. Or control, whatever they call it. I could have pre-positioned people in the hallways, I suppose, but... that would be even more micromanagement. We're not doing that. Alright, this should be a fairly quick cleanup. If you can't stop a Dawn ordeal at this point in the game, you're in for a bad time. Yeah. Absolutely nothing to worry about. Now, that said, a green noon will still kill a lot of employees and potentially cause some ripple effects, but otherwise, I'm not particularly worried. So I'm kind of thinking about getting the armors first. We're kind of short on Aleph armor. We've got a fair amount of Aleph weapons, but there's always more people that need armor right now. So we're just going to keep working that religiously, basically. Oh, Big Bird... How did he get down? Or does he not? Does he not start at 5? Or did some employees die when I wasn't looking? Sends this guy. Yeah, a bit of HP for David. Why not? Okay, this is ready to go. These guys are still maxed. Oh yeah, we must have had a few janitors die. How did these guys even die? I guess if they got too close to one of the clowns explode and do enough damage to kill a janitor. That's hilarious. Oh well, nothing we can't handle. That'll do. I guess insight, looks like insight is slightly better than repression. So that's good to know. Alright, let's do some upstairs, speed along a little bit so we don't waste too much time. Just keep employees busy. Maybe pause while I'm selecting Schadenfreude. Alright. Get some energy going, although that's not going to be the problem today by any means. We've got a nice easy quest. How are these guys' stats looking? Faith has actually got some pretty good stats, too. Janders can't even handle the clown. I know, it's disgusting. Alright, we're going to send Cole in like one more time for Prudence, but he'll probably be pretty much maxed at that. I don't know exactly how many times you have to work these things to get your stats maxed. Like, I did look at the formula at one point. It's dependent on your character level versus the abnormalities level. It's also dependent on how many successes you get out of the total. And I don't know if there's anything else that's involved. Maybe the amount of damage you take, which is kind of the same thing. The better you do on a high level abnormality, the better your gains. And you get slightly less gains at a high level yourself. Well, we'll definitely be able to get 2 of the armors today. And maybe 1 of the weapons. Let's do it like one more time. Should probably let him heal up just in case. Alright, so that's probably the last for this meltdown level. So while that's going, let's keep the upstairs busy. I know I'm sending in Rides 2.0 and Jelka 3.0 a lot to the same rooms, but that'll get their justice caught up pretty quick. It's easy to get into a cycle of sending the same people to the same abnormalities, because, I don't know, it's just safe. Some of these guys we can work safely too. No big deal. Uh-oh. Meltdown! Beware, beware! Alright, we got Defree Shoots, Redulta. You know, if we ever get a meltdown on the Fiery Bird, I'd have to go fight it instantly, but that's nothing I'm terribly worried about either, really. So you can use, like, anything on Free Shoots. He's not that bad. So I suppose we might as well just stick with Insight to sort of train that up. And we can ignore the tool. And we can keep working on Blue Star. So we've had Cole do a lot of work on it. Let's make sure David gets his Prudence maxed out. There is sort of a behind-the-scenes stat degradation that I haven't really talked about much. But I think every day your stats, not the level, but like the value has a chance to go down by 1 or something like that every day. So if you're not doing anything, your stats will slowly drop. I haven't looked up the mechanics for that either. I just know that it obviously does a little bit. Not quite. Alright, one more time on Blue Star. He'll get a heal tick before he gets there, yeah. And then we'll keep working on some of the newbies. Call these the newbie team, but they're not even that new anymore. Seeing as most of them have been reincarnated once or twice. Just call them the upstairs team. And these guys can use some stats, no problem there. I mean, there's no reason why we can't work on Censored with Roberts. He's totally fine working that these days. And getting his Prudence even higher is certainly beneficial. Alright, so am I done training these 2 guys specifically? I think what I'll do is I'll finish this meltdown level, and then I'll rotate some other team of staff to work on it. Seeing as this is where we're getting all the real training done. Let's make sure he's fully healed. This guy isn't actually wearing Aleph armor, so we want to be a little bit careful sending him into these things so he doesn't panic. Panicking is still pretty bad. Also, did he get the gift there? Yeah, movement speed plus 10. That's pretty good. It's still a 2% drop, which is pretty tiny, but certainly can't complain about a little bit faster movement. Yeah, 126 movement speed, which is 25% in fact. So I actually don't know. There's probably diminishing returns on the stats as they get higher and higher or something. the actual effective change doesn't go up nearly as much. Nah, it's still fine. Alright, so these guys can go back to their normal spot. These two will continue their adventure, and these two will, assuming they need insight, which they do, they can come work on it for a while. Hey, Jacob. I've grown a lot since Final Fantasy 3. Oh, well, that's true. Thanks for thanks for stopping by the stream. Yeah, the channel, I mean, I've been around for a while. You stream long enough, you eventually get some viewers and some subscribers. Yeah. It does amaze me, though, how many people still watch this stuff. Alright, so let's just keep going. We'll let Fella and Thorinum get a little bit of training in here. Casco's got pretty good stats overall. Sotraz, I'm trying to catch up a little bit here. We're gonna get a new Meltdown. Both Jimek and Pixel need a lot of HP, so they're sticking to the wolf. As soon as the Meltdown hits, anybody that had a Meltdown, or whatever they call those things, the Overload, it immediately resets, so it's safe to work again. Speaking of things that we need to work again, so we've got 2 newly rotated in employees. It makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more difficult, because you can't select from the extraction team, because those guys are farther away. But, you know, it's fine. This will just help these guys get to 128 and everything. Meanwhile, Defree shoots. There's basically no more stats. Right, I forget. Just always work on insights, fine. Okay, so we probably would be able to end our day probably after the Crimson Noon, but Crimson Noon's not so bad. You just realized if Blue Star ever breaks out, the Aeoni nuke will cause Mountain, Army in Black, Red Hood, Big Bird all to break out. Yeah. It's great. It's great. We're missing... There's another thing that breaks out on deaths. I don't have it, but it's like a monk type thing, I believe. I think he might even be Wa class. And he will also break out based on the number of deaths. So we could have even more when janitors die, everything goes to crap. But we don't have that one, at least. Aleph tier should be pretty safe. Punishing Bird out again. Let's just do some quick works here and there. Right, it's... Oh, right, it gives you better success at low fortitude, but don't trust it, it's a lie. That's a trap. Right. Okay, we just keep these guys busy. Let's do some more work upstairs. There's always more stats to be had. That we actually aren't in much trouble either. A Crimson Noon might be the easiest Noon to suppress. I don't want to bank on it, but Green Noon is a little bit more annoying. What else is there? The Sweepers, the Indigo Noon, they're not too bad. But they're probably a little bit harder than the Noon. Not as bad as the robots, but probably harder than the Crimson. I suppose the Violet Noon is the easiest if you don't have on-death escape abnormalities. For us, the Violet Noon is a real pain, but normally it's pretty easy. But we just happen to have a bad combo by now. Remember, the target here is to get some more Aleph gear, so don't skimp on that. I guess I better figure out what I'm doing about this bird pretty soon, too. See you later, David. Thanks for hanging in there, coming out or whatever. Thanks for stopping by. That's what you're supposed to say. That's how you know I'm a professional streamer. It is a pretty late night stream for a lot of people, I understand. So I think I might just try to grind out a little bit more points here. We'll send in Chubby Cat. Chubby Cat made it all the way down to the the difficult stuff. I remember when Chubby Cat was just a brand new B-Team employee working upstairs with punishing birds. It's been a long way. It's been a long, long trip. She did get one ego gift along the way. $172. Yeah, we'll definitely get one weapon. I think if I really grind it out, if I really stick to it, we will be able to get both weapons right now before we end the day. The only thing that could stop us would be a very scary dusk ordeal that came early, because this Crimson Noon is going to be fine. But for the dusk, it depends on what we got, but we could get a really bad dusk that scared me off because I didn't want to deal with all the escaping abnormalities. It's fine. We're not going to get a neutral. Or we're not going to get a bad, that is to say. Not as many points, though, when you're at negative 24%. Alright, technically we could end the day, but we're not going to do that yet. I suppose when we use some of the less experienced employees that don't have quite as high temperance, they might not have quite as high results on this thing, so it's sort of inefficient in a sense. It's just good for their stats. Let's trigger this noon. So we'll do it. No. We'll be fine. Let's do one more. This reminds me of the Ankylo greed back when we were farming the Melted Love. Can't remember who died from that one, but one of you suffered for my experimentation. Always pushing it one more time. Yeah, not super valuable, but also, you know, we're still not even really below like half sanity, so it's not too scary. Okay, I think our current team composition, we don't really need to group up the entire upstairs into one big group. No matter where this thing spawns, a small team will be able to deal with it. That's where the fun comes from. Some old school Dwarf Fortress fun. Okay, where do we want to trigger the event from? We'll just let one of the newbies. I kind of like triggering it with one of the really short, doesn't take very long kind of days. We'll let Jelka do it. There you go, Jelka. Nice easy job for you. Let loose the bitey clowns of war. All right, where are they? We got one in here. Is it really just one? I thought we'd be getting more than one by now. They really only give you one clown thing at the noon? The Crimson Dust gives you 2 roly-polies, and then they each turn into one of these. But I guess the noon is just one. This has got to be the easiest noon ordeal. Like, Violet's not that bad, but the Crimson Noon is just such a cakewalk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this team fight it. The only thing that could ever happen that would give me a bad time would be if nothing there breaks out. Almost nothing else is worth really stressing out about. I mean, you can look, they're just gonna crush this thing. Look, it's pathetic. That's the mountain weapon and the Justicia just destroying this poor crab monster. I guess it's kind of like a scorpion. Alright, it spawns its little clowns, they teleport. We just gotta find them. One. Now, if they broke out Big Bird, that might be interesting. Maybe there's a couple things that could break out that would be bad. Nothing there would be bad. Big Bird might be bad. That's probably the 2 worst escapees. I'm not sure what would happen if Blue Star got out. We might be okay. We might not be. That one might be terrible. Anyway, where are the rest of these things? Up here. I'm sure Rides will be fine. His past self has dealt with more than one clown. And that's just the 3. There should just be 3 clowns. No big deal, right? Let's just keep an eye on the one down here. But seriously, it's not going to have any time at all. That's Gold Rush, making short work of it. And then upstairs. Upstairs. Super upstairs. Yeah. Nothing to worry about. You guys know me. Nothing to fear but fear itself. Okay. So I suppose we should just plan to fight the bird fairly soon. I'm just trying to decide how far I want to push it. Because we have no ordeal here, I think what I'll do is I'll wait another cycle. Because the only thing that could cause us problems for Blue Star is if we send someone in accidentally that takes too long to work it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the debuff from Fiery Bird would trigger that. So let's wait on Fiery Bird until we're done over here, basically. And we're already at... We just need 170 points to go. We can get that. Maybe not on this cycle, but the next one for sure. Ah, right. Gotta do it this way. Looks like Chubby Cat's got slightly better odds. Oh, Turkey's got a big debuff. Where did that come from, Turkey? Like, what happened to Turkey? Oh, that's from... Oh, right. That's the fighting debuff. I need to be careful about that as well. That will go away fairly quickly. That's from the buff from Gold Rush. And it gives you a big Temperance debuff for... I think it's like 2 minutes. But it also doubles the attack speed. So it's good, but... You know. You don't want to use... Like, that's something that could theoretically cause us problems. I mean, I don't know. Theoretically. It's mostly because I just don't pay attention to how long a work will take, generally. It's one of those stats that almost never matters. Like, this number here, I just almost... It's just, I don't know. Who really checks that, right? Alright, so they're busy. We'll speed along a little bit up here. There's always more work to do somewhere. Should be the name of the game. There's always more work to do. We're not using these people because they're... I've shuffled the teams around over here enough that it's kind of difficult to use these. So we're looking at 100 more points. That's probably 4 or 5 more jobs. So maybe 2 more now. And then on this reset, we'll get more rewards out of it. And it'll be 2 or 3 more in level 7. And then we'll be good. A fairly casual day, I would say. We're still spending like an hour per episode. But, you know, there's still lots of things to do. Alright, this will be the last one, so we can set the rest of our countdown off with upstairs stuff. Not really worrying too much about who does what. Just trying to queue stuff up quick. Is that going to be enough to set it off? Yeah, that'll actually set down the meltdown. Oh, well, okay, hold on. Let's not reset the timer in the middle of the work. Let's wait till this is done. Then reset it. There you go. Thornum can still go work with the Snow Queen. At least he's not wearing that cool fire armor anymore, right? Alright, well, this is a convenient way to do this, I suppose. Because it's about time to get this going. So let's work the easy ones. We'll send Chubby Cat over to do a little bit of Instinct on the Thorn Plant. And Turkey will just keep working on Blue Star. And then, basically, we gotta fight a bird. Even the feather kills you. You think the feather sword would kill you? Because it doesn't look that way. Looks like it's just the armor to me. I think you're fine. You may have got kissed by her, but that's okay. Alright, meanwhile, I gotta get people downstairs to fight. No one's, like, accidentally died when I wasn't watching, did they? Do I want Faith to fight? Nah, we'll leave Faith up here. Alright, so we're gonna have the bird escape. I guess the way to delay it the longest is to wait till it's almost done and then work on it, and then let it escape via a good success. This team can keep working on this. I don't think we'll need every single employee to beat the bird, so it's not that big a deal. You're surprised the feather doesn't count. Well, now we have for scienced it even more. Alright, so we're actually at like one more job and we'll be done on that. So yeah, we're assuming we don't die to this bird, which would be fairly surprising. Actually, one thing I could have done a little better. I did get a twofer. Let's try to prevent any crazy chain reactions by not having randos down here. The only thing that could go bad now would be mountain and everything breaking out. Gotta be careful with these shots. But I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, there shouldn't be anything else for me to mess up, as far as I know. Punishing birds. We might wait for it to go home before we end the day, but otherwise we're good. Looks like we have another candidate for the Love Sniper Rifle. Looks like Need got the Ego gift out of that. So Jarrell and Need should probably be our shooters rather than Mia. Just because they get some bonus damage. Alright, Fiery Bird is out. Luckily, this doesn't count towards the true birds escaping, or else that would be pretty terrible. Alright, team. You got yourself a Firebird to kill. Alright, this is the white damage phase. We'll just throw some white shields in there to be safe. Now it's back to red damage. And we should be good. I would be surprised if an Aleph, if a large group of Aleph-equipped employees would actually be killed by that thing nowadays. It's, you know, it's potentially possible, but we can kill it pretty quickly now. So, all right, so that should get us our last piece of weapons. Let's just work it. You know, let's get some spare points in case people die. But for the most part, we're pretty much done our day. We'll just fill this up to the dusk, and then we'll stop. Peck, peck, peck. Yeah, and I wanted the bird to go home anyway, so. Get the little bird out of there. Get that bird out of there. And then we'll just do a little bit of upstairs. We'll do like one more round of upstairs training just to keep things, keep the stats flowing. It should be a good day for stat gains. I feel like I've sent Sotraz in there long enough. Actually, we should make sure we send someone else, because if we get the Ice Queen duel, then we have to postpone our day even longer. Let's just do a couple easy jobs over here. This is not going to fill up the actual bar, so we're just going to finish one more set up here, and then that should be it. Oh, don't look at Schadenfreude, though. It was just in the corner, enough for it to tick down the meter. Alright, one little stack of cash. Nice to have a reserve for the future. And this should be a very successful day. This should be lots of lobotomy points. Lots of new weapons and armor. And then tomorrow, the next day, then we can talk about how we're going to survive a bird apocalypse. Everybody upstairs is done. Bango, bango. S rank, yeah! An hour long of messing around like that. Well, I think it's worth it. We're getting pretty close to the end of the game, so we need these points, we need these stats. It's the way to do it, right? So, just a quick overview of some stats for people. The A team didn't get a lot of work unless you got to work, unless you were specifically going with Blue Star. Let's see if there's anyone in specific that got a lot of stat ups. Fellow and Zimiek upstairs, we got quite a lot of work with the newbies up there. So some nice increases. Cole, like you can see Chubby Cat was down there, probably got her SP maxed out. It's pretty nice. Sotraz got a fair bit of work done. We're seeing a lot of 90s and over 100s. Unfortunately, some people like Casco didn't get a lot of work. Thorinum, you know, got a little bit of job done. It's nice to see these justice stats going up. That's kind of what I was hoping for. We didn't actually get Rides and Jelka all the way up to 5, but they're probably not too far off. So, cool. I'd say that was pretty much perfect day. Alright, so now we get another tool. I'm not picking the train. The melody. I forget if this thing has any value for us at all. Kind of lose prudence. If I remember correctly, this is a 1 stat up for prudence down kind of thing. And if you use it too many times, your prudence gets to 0, and that could be bad, as in you die. It might be better than the melody thing, though. We'll try it out. The tool choices don't really matter that much, I find. It's not the same as picking an Aleph that can kill you all. They should add an Aleph tool, though. Yeah, the train, I would say, of all the tools to avoid, you have to avoid the train. But other than that, it's not so bad. This place where there was only silence, perhaps because it was only you and I, has gotten a bit livelier thanks to the Saphiras. Unlike me, they were weak and lacked rationality. And they made so many mistakes that annoyed me greatly. I did not approve of you placing the Saphiras here. But you told me that your atonement and the awakening of the Saphiras were key to untying the knot. So you better do some Saphira core suppressions if you want to get a good ending. I didn't know what you were talking about. You also told me I wouldn't understand. You even blocked me from interfering with the relationship, saying that it must be left solely to you. You were right as always. Even if I stay here repeating this endlessly, it's probably not worth understanding till the end. To quote one of your favorite lines, machines should act like machines. So I had to play the role of observer and had to endure all the pain that others forget. Or forgot. It's happened many times. I don't think I have to point that out again. Yes, you do. Alright. Back to the deep, bleak pit of despair and trying to figure out what kind of crazy things she teaches us about the well. Fierce fights break out every day here, just as you have lived until this moment. You've seen this countless times, haven't you? With enough time, abnormalities come back to life, no matter how many pieces they're broken into. It's one of the facts that drove Gebura mad. She took too long to realize that abnormalities are to be exploited, not terminated. Or perhaps she just couldn't shake the anger of her past self. Well, it's none of my business. All I know is that I will never see her old self again. Still, I am awestruck to Ego's potential whenever I see her berserk. We dealt with it. Let's talk about ego potential. You will never know this. You have never wielded it. In fact, there are many weapons that hold enormous power in this world, besides the ego. Artifacts from the outskirts, ruins, singularities of the wings, or crude inventions made in the back street, boys. Using them correctly would result in weapons that would stand against the abnormalities. But giving those weapons to employees who have never learned about combat outside of basic training is as futile as teaching a baby annoying bird how to hunt. The rabbits are specialized. I can't remember to use these guys. The rabbits are specialized at killing. As long as they have enough ammunition, they can kill anything. Unlike our employees who can't even handle their weapons properly. Combat prowess is not one of the requirements after all. But they don't have to learn how to use ego. Its power grows according to the wielder's heart like an anime. You know how to use them the moment your hand touches them. However, even with this power, most of the employees barely stand a chance against abnormalities. I haven't seen anyone who can draw out its true potential besides the red mist. Wielding ego is donning someone else's ego. It's not the wielder's power, it's merely borrowed, imitated. If I knew that before I was locked in here, I would have done anything to get my hands on them. Then the circumstances may be different. After I am contained here, I am ordered to merely extract ego, forbidden from holding it. They're scared, even though my bloodthirstiness is locked behind this metal wall. Do not worry, I have nothing left. But you never know, the yearning for blood may rise again, for they are merely sealed, not eradicated. I mean, that's great, right? What's she gonna do when her core suppresses? She's gonna be the new Gabura, except worse. So anyway, new quest, complete a day with 8 or more Aleph level egos. We definitely have that by now. If you haven't, well, this is pretty easy. I mean, by this point in the game, man, if you haven't figured out 4 Alephs at this point, you're probably screwed. Because you basically just need 4 of them. And if you haven't been able to figure out how to work them to get their gear, you're in big trouble. But with Gabura's bonus, this is really easy. So do I pick up... Do I put the tool down? Or do I see if this unlocks a core suppression? Let's just get the tool for now, and then hopefully that's okay. I don't want to do the core suppression yet. I want to do the bird thing before we deal the next suppression. Also, if we can get a few more lobotomy points, that wouldn't hurt. Mind you, the bird event might just kill everybody anyway. Yeah, if you're really unlucky and didn't get any Alephs at all, I feel like the odds of that are pretty slim, but it's possible. Okay, so we're going to go with re-extraction. I don't find that this 25% chance to not lose your ego gear on death is really very valuable. I mean, it's got some value, but for the most part, grinding out points is not that hard. And being able to select the next abnormality a little bit more carefully definitely has higher value. Cool. So, should be an easy quest again, which means maybe it's worth trying to do our secondary side quest of Bird Apocalypse. Oh yeah, I forgot to buy that. There we go. Another weapon. But yeah, that was very successful. We got all the gear out of that thing. Let's have a quick look at special abilities before we end the episode for the future tubers. So, Sound of a Star. Attack power changes according to employees' mentality. So if I remember correctly, I did look up some of these Aleph weapon special abilities because the translations are a bit weak. This thing does more damage when the employee has lost some sanity, I think. Mentality is your sanity, and I think the idea is lower current SP, higher damage. So if you're fighting something that's dealing white damage, you'll become stronger over time, I believe. And then for the Sound of a Star armor. Recovers other employees in the same space. Pretty darn awesome. It's a regen, essentially, for employees that are in the same zone as whoever is wearing it. I don't know if it's HP and SP. I think it is. So this is like one of the better armors for sure. In a big group of people, getting some more passive regeneration is awesome. So it's also good stats and great effect. So pretty happy with that. I mean, we've got other things that regenerate when you walk on a dead employee, but, you know, group regens, it might not heal much, but, you know, better than nothing. Anyway, that's the new stuff. We did pick up one more lamp, and we got one more feather. So that's pretty much all the gear we can get for the moment. And that's it. So future tubers, thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you next time.